So welcome everybody to this episode of the Ninth Grade Experience podcast. We are here again, back in the building for the second week in a row, getting used to life back here at Emmaus High School within the building. And this week we have a new guest to the show, somebody who might help us out with some of the extracurricular activities that will go on at the high school this year and kind of give us some feedback on that. So today we have Assistant Athletic Director Matt Spengler. So Mr. Spengler, thanks for joining us today on the show.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So we always ask new guests to the show to talk about their ninth grade experience. And like we always qualify it for the adults. You don't have to say what year. You don't have to say what school. We were talking before we came on, and maybe it's better for you not to divulge the school, but you can if you want. You can infer from whatever you want from that statement. But what was your ninth grade experience like?
I went to a school district up the road, and when I first started there in ninth grade, it was the first year that the building was constructed. It was a brand new building, pretty big, and when I walked in there with 3,000 kids, it was pretty intimidating. Luckily, I was involved in activities and sports really helped me out freshman year to gain new friends and stuff like that, but yeah, it was pretty difficult transitioning from 8th grade to ninth grade, going from a smaller building to a larger building, and especially with the older kids at that school. So it was a brand new building, and I was the first class to go all 4 years and graduate from that building.
Yeah, I was going to say from my knowledge of that school up the road there, was that was the first year that all 4 of the high school grades were together, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Actually, I believe so. I forget how they had it organized at that time. But they turned the old high school into a middle school.
So do you remember like when you were in ninth grade and we're going to talk about your role in like overseeing like the clubs and the activities and stuff, like was there something in ninth grade that you joined or a sport that you played that was like significant that maybe carried through high school for you, or like a significant activity that you got yourself involved with that kind of maybe not necessarily shaped your direction or your future direction, but something that, you look back on and be like, wow, I got involved with that and it kind of really led me on a path for high school?
Yeah, for me, it was definitely wrestling. I wrestled all 4 years in high school and then wrestled in college, then coached for 11 years. And just a work ethic that sport in particular instills in you. It helps you years down the road in your job and, just in your life, dealing with your kids and your marriage. And when you go through difficult times, I always go back to my wrestling days of those practices and overcoming adversity. And then also in clubs as well. I was involved in the German club. I'm still Facebook friends with my German club advisor, German teacher, Frau Cortazzo, her name was. And she was definitely a special person in my life, and I really enjoyed that club.
And it's always interesting, like when we talk to either like the adults we talk to on the show, we always kind of see that connection that at some point they kind of join something or they're involved with something and it kind of connects with them and they can remember that and kind of carry it through. So you're in a unique spot here at Emmaus High School. You're the assistant athletic director. So you've been dealing with a lot of stuff over the summer related to athletics. But at the beginning here, we're going to talk more about the clubs and activities side. So, talk to us a little bit about like what that has looked like throughout the summer and kind of where we're at with clubs and activities here at the high school as we start the school year, because we talk every year about getting involved and, finding that group of people, whether, whatever your interests are, and it kind of makes the big school smaller. But what is that like? How has that progressed through the summer, and what is that going to look like here at the start of the school year?
So it changed a lot. Clubs right now, I'm sure you guys saw the return to school plan is going to start out virtually. However, there are plans in the works where clubs are going to be eventually face-to-face. Right now, band is permitted on campus. We had to come up with a return the band plan that got school board approved. Then also everyone knows a return the sports plan. So clubs to start will be virtually. In my previous year here, as far as getting advisors in place, I normally do that in May and June, but because of the budget, issues that we had, I'm starting to get people school board approved now. So this next school board meeting, there's going to be a lot of advisors that are going to get approved. But I think in the very near future, we're going to have clubs, or at least I hope, face to face.
So that would be like when we come back in the hybrid model, like in the end of October here at the high school, that's what it would look like. So we'll start off virtually and kind of go to that kind of model at the end of October.
Yeah, we're kind of at a, with the change in going to all online until October 26th, that definitely throws a curveball. However, my job and my goal is to get face to face as soon as possible with clubs. I don't know if it'll be October. I don't know if it'll be November. I don't know if it's going to be September. That's something that hopefully I'll have the plan in place by next week.
So for at the start of the year, so we have this our schedule here at the high school. Like students are done with their like classes at 1 o'clock, like in that 1:15 range, and then they have from 1:15 to 2:30. That's supposed to be like work time and checking in with your teachers. So our clubs, virtual clubs, like for the first little bit, if they decide to start meeting, is that so that will the clubs then be meeting at like 2:35? Is that like, or is it up to the club leader's discretion on how they're going to meet? Like, I was kind of curious over the summer to kind of know like the logistics of how that would work, like with our schedule. So what
Yeah,
will like clubs look like?
I think as far as the teacher schedules, and most of our advisors are teachers, they're going to have the meetings after 2:30. It just makes sense. Just like in a normal school year, that's when their club meetings are. They're going to be after school and after school time. So whenever they can find time to, I feel like everyone's becoming pretty proficient in Zoom,
Yeah.
especially during this time. So that's when they're going to have to start off. And most of our clubs really don't get started until mid to end of September anyways. So we have a little bit of time to get a plan in place for when we go virtual or for when we eventually get in the face-to-face. But I'm hoping with the parameters that we're going to put in place that it happens sooner rather than later.
And I was just thinking too over the summer, like, and this is like for athletics, and this is a question I had with a lot of this stuff is so like, if in these, in the fall here, we have the chance to come back in the hybrid model and we do the clubs and activities like normal, where maybe they can meet face to face, like, is there going to be some sort of like late bus transportation, or how will that work for transportation wise? Because I'm assuming now for athletics, students have to find their own way back. There's no like bus run that picks them up to bring them to like athletics. Is it going to be the same thing for like activities as well too? Like,
Yeah, it's going to be the same thing. It's going
yeah,
to be the same thing, just like if we had a meeting, last year pre-COVID, I'll just throw out German club. I mentioned my experience in German club. If the meeting ends at 4, they're going to have to find a ride back for that particular time.
yeah. So there's not like in the years past, like we would always tell kids that like usually clubs met on like Tuesdays and Thursdays because of the late bus that was provided. But like at this point, there's not like a plan for like late bus transportation
Correct.
if the clubs kind of do go to a in-person kind of format at any point, like earlier in the year here.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, you got to think virtually. It's pretty hard for the fitness team to have a virtual meeting. It's a lot
True.
easier for the French club to have a virtual meeting, especially to start the year, compared to the fitness team or there's a couple of our other clubs, a real challenge. How, robotics, another one, that's tough to have a virtual meeting where it's so hands-on, that particular club. So the more hands-on clubs that we have, it's hard to get creative. Like, how can you do some of those clubs virtually?
And is there like, I assume like, cause you said there was a plan to kind of have them be in person. Like I assume that like clubs I wasn't even thinking of like the fitness team, cause they call it a team. So I wasn't even thinking it as
Mm-hmm.
like a club, but like, so I guess there'll be like almost different kind of strategies for, like you said, like we'll call it like non-contact clubs versus like contact clubs, or like clubs that will be more like they need to be like kind of more in person.
Absolutely. It's definitely going to be a challenge for those clubs. And another big one is winter track club. We have hundreds of kids in winter track. And with that 25 person limit right now that we're dealing with in volleyball, the mandate from the governor where you can only have 25 people in a given space for an event, that's tough to overcome. So we're definitely eventually going to have to get creative if that mandate is still in place.
So I should have asked you this kind of a little bit earlier, but so if a student is like starting as like a ninth grader, or any student that it's kind of interested in learning about like what clubs and activities we have it here at the high school, where can they go to check some of that out?
All right, so you would go to the East Penn School District homepage, go to departments, and there's a drop-down menu. And on that drop-down menu is athletics and activities. So we have a up-to-date website for all sports and activities on there. On the right-hand side, there's a tab called clubs. You click clubs, and we have all the advisors' names listed with the clubs that we have available at the high school. That was updated last year. So once I get all the school board approvals this month, then I'll update it and I'll be ready to go around October 1.
After all, on the top of your head, off the top of your head, how many clubs and activities do we have here at Emmaus?
Well, if we're talking about, orchestra and chorale and band and, not just the clubs, but all the extracurricular, I mean, I'd say 70 or 80.
Yeah. Do you deal with like orchestra and chorale and stuff like that too as part of
that's under the same umbrella as far as that's concerned as well. We also, in this office, we deal with field trips and facility agreements and fundraisers and, all the sports.
Are clubs going to be allowed to fundraise this year? I don't know if you're allowed to say that or not, but like, I know in the past, that's like kind of been a big way for them to be able to do different clubs and activities, like to be able to supplement it. But what is that going to look like?
It's going to have to, you got to think of the social distancing aspect through this whole thing. So, if people want, there's some fundraisers that are done online, right? So that they're going to be easier, and it depends how they're distributed. But yes, I think fundraisers, depending on the fundraiser, will be possible. Obviously, we're not in school, so that makes it more difficult for people to see each other. But some of the fundraisers they're selling things and they give their items to their parents, at work and so on and so forth. So.
All right, so we're back, and Mr. Spengler and I are dealing with problems in the virtual world. So we were recording, and then I looked up and looked at the screen, and Mr. Spengler had frozen. So we were just saying that this is one of the new things that we'll have to deal with in the world of clubs and activities, is doing those virtual things. Is maybe sometimes they're not going to work together all the time, and it's not going to work out. So, and I know, and you're in your office and no one's there, so I don't know. Maybe that we were going to ask a question that the internet didn't want us to answer. So maybe that was it. I don't know.
Could be true.
So I was asking, I think before we froze, I was asking about a popular activity here at the high school. It's scheduled for this year. Well, it would be scheduled for this year, is Schaefer the Brave. It's one of the bigger events here at the high school. Have there been any early talks about what might happen with Schaefer the Brave yet?
There is. Fortunately for me, I spent a lot of time with this person, Liz Del Rey. She's our trainer that's in charge of Schaefer the Brave. And we have some virtual options in place. We have some potential outdoor options as well. That expands our limit of people, obviously, if we're outside compared to in the gym. I don't know, who knows. It's hard to have a crystal ball here to see what's going to be in place in March or April.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just wondering for my own personal hair, because sometimes I leave my hair grow for the entire Schaefer the Brave year until we get to that point. So
yeah, keep it growing. Keep it growing. That's my advice. Liz and myself, along with other people in this district, are going to do anything possible for that event. It's for a great cause, and she puts 2 years of work in for one day.
Yeah, it's a great event. And just as throwing this out there, I know the first year they did do the event, they did it on the track down at the stadium, and it was outdoors. Now, I don't know with the new track and the new field if they want hair all in it, so that might be a problem. But I know that they've done it outdoors before, so just go back in the archives the first year it was done outside. So I guess it could be done. It was a lot smaller on the first go around. So
yeah, it's a great event. I mean, we'll try to host if we can.
Yeah. So a couple more questions here as we kind of finish up here, so you can get back to solving all the athletics and all the issues of the world here. Just one more club question. Are there any new clubs on the horizon this year, or new things that, haven't been offered here at Emmaus that might be, in addition to the things that are usually offered all the time?
Not officially as of now. This summer, there was a individual that reached out to our principal, Dr. Kira, about starting a club, but we're open to starting new clubs at any point, especially during the fall semester. I mean, if a club comes forward in March or April, we'll just say wait till August, wait till September to get it going, but nothing really.
Okay, so nothing new. No one wants to start like the vaccine club, like developing the vaccine, or no science club, or who knows what.
Yeah,
But
we've had in my 2 years here, we've had about 10 or 15 new clubs that have been
oh, that's good.
started. So normally it's about five or so a year, five or six.
Okay, so we'll end since you also deal with athletics too. Now, this, practices and stuff have kind of already started or will be starting soon here. So if you're a fall athlete, you are pretty much geared into what you've been needing to do for a while here. But, we've had lots of issues going back and forth with the governor, the PIAA, the school district, everything else. But as of right now, athletics are a go. I saw there was a football schedule that came out either like late last week or early this week. So it looks like, we're looking to play that kind of stuff. So what has it been like for you as the assistant athletic director, kind of through this entire process too, and kind of, riding the ups and downs and, wanting to have kids out on the field, but wanting them to be safe and all the other stuff?
It's been a roller coaster for me personally. I normally like routine. I also normally like to be very, very proactive. And for this, we kind of have to procrastinate. I know that word sometimes can be frowned upon, but I kind of have to hold myself back. Not even in the sports realm, but just for example, I also am in charge of picture day. And I had 4 days reserved in September and 4 days reserved in October, and had to cancel 8 days of picture days. And now we're going to be running picture day in November. And a lot goes behind that event. So there's just a lot of changes. So instead of doing 1 day of picture day in September every year, we had 4 planned because of the hybrid model. So that's going to continue for November. I'd say, I saw Mr. Fortier last week. I'd say work-wise, probably triple or quadruple the amount of what, because you're planning for 4 picture days now.
Yeah, yeah.
You
It's not
know,
as easy as just planning for, normal football, normal sports, normal clubs. It's like, you got it on autopilot, kind of like you were saying.
yeah.
But
And,
now it's like you have to deal with all these other outside issues that really are out of your control.
and then going for the sports, schedules, we normally have our scheduling meeting in conference every January. And my schedules and our schedules are done by March. Well, they're not done right now. It's September 2nd. So, for the fall, we have a meeting tomorrow where hopefully they'll all be finalized and we'll get all the schedules out by Friday. So that's where we're looking at with all levels, not just the high school.
Now I know I saw on the EHS athletics Twitter feed that golf started yesterday. Was it yesterday?
Yeah, that was my video. Yep.
So it must have been nice to be out there to kind of see them, starting off the season. So golf is started. Can you kind of just give us a quick rundown
Yeah.
of everything starting
Yeah,
then?
I'll give you a rundown. Official practices have started in we're just talking high school, every high school sport, official practices except for football. Football is starting in a couple days, their first official practice. Competitions have started in golf and tennis around the area. Unfortunately, we had to reschedule a tennis event. There was a conflict with another school. So tennis is getting underway tomorrow. Cross country gets going officially. I believe it's September 15th, I think, is our first competition. Girls volleyball, boys and girls soccer, and field hockey are the end of September, along with football is shortly thereafter. So that's kind of the rundown for fall sports. I don't think I missed any.
And then I'm going to just assume that they have not, well, I'm sure you've probably begun thinking about it, but like winter sports stuff, I'm sure there's planning and
So
all
there's
sorts of.
already planning. I think I've talked to just about every winter coach so far. Off-season workouts, preseason workouts are going to get underway for a lot of those programs already in September. So their first official practices aren't until November, but we have to come up with creative plans because, as you know, most of the winter sports, if not, well, all of them are inside.
Yep. Yeah, I have a middle school son who's going to be in 7th grade that's, looking for the basketball information. Not that I'm trying to poke it from you now, but, they're looking for that kind of stuff. So it'll be really interesting to see. Like, I know we received some notification from a couple of the youth groups that, like, it's all contingent upon, like, East Penn School District being allowed to like use their gyms and other stuff like that. So a lot of different organizations are looking for those winter things as well too. So I'm sure, you're still planning the fall here. The winter is coming pretty quickly. So I'm sure you're just constantly in a state of all over the place and trying to figure it all out.
Yeah, you just got to evolve and, become a problem solver and figure it out. I mean, it is what it is. You're dealt a hand and you got to overcome it.
All right. So I think we kind of gave a lot of good information to our students and ninth graders. So if they're interested, they can go find on the EHS Athletics website there on their clubs. They'll find that there. If you want to follow what EHS Athletics are doing, EHS Athletics on Twitter. Are you guys on like Instagram or anything else like that?
No, Twitter's all we can handle here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then I know that just out of personal connections, I've been I worked with Zach Connor last year. So the Hornet and the Hornet's ready to come back and make a reappearance here in 2021.
That's the rumor. That's what I'm hearing.
So we'll have to wait and see the new Hornet and, who's going to be inside the costume there. So hopefully they'll be able to be out there. And I don't know if they're included in the people that are allowed at the football games, but hopefully the Hornet will be out there and at the other athletics that they can make it to. So anything else that students should be aware of from things that are coming out of your office, Mr. Spengler?
No, just know clubs will probably be finalized, all the school board approvals, worst case in October. And that website will be updated in the next month or so. So that's where we're at with clubs.
And if people are looking for your office, if they need to get information, they're not going to be here much longer. But when they come back, you guys are located right next to Mr. Fortier's office up there near the Horseshoe where, you can get let off in the morning. So if you need anything when you're back at school or you're dropping papers off, the athletics office is right there. So
yeah.
So thanks a lot for coming on with us today. Really appreciate it. And good luck with planning and implementing all this stuff. I'm sure it's crazy and I'm sure a lot of people are pulling at you from each direction. So thanks for taking a couple minutes out to talk to us today.
You're welcome. Thanks again.